So our ringside report came from Steve Kim this week. So you can obviously download our magazine as normal on www.boxingnewsonline.net/apps or pick it up from newsstands on Thursday. Coming this week, we've got a long feature with Steve Collins, who's spoken to the excellent Donald McRae. Matt, Steve Collins, personal favourite of mine. I watched him a lot growing up. Was in some marvellous nights, on both sides of the Atlantic. What's your favourite Steve Collins memory?
Steve Collins, he was very underrated. I think even throughout his career. Personally, when he beat Eubank and he did, and that whole hypnotism thing, and he looked like he'd been in a trance and what have you. I thought that was brilliant. The Nigel Benn fights, I think he fought Nigel Benn, who was slightly scarred from the McClellan fight. But I think even now people still, when they talk about Benn and Eubank and Watson, and then it's almost like Collins is old and Collins, even though he beat all of those guys that he fought, I still don't think he quite gets the credit that he deserves for being so competitive at that time and really bossing Eubank and Benn as well as he did.
Do you think some people will see it that basically Benn and Eubank were near the ends of their career, although obviously Eubank went on to have a second career at cruiserweight, but basically he was sort of cleaning up what was left after those guys had been beating each other up for a couple of years? Yeah,
and I think Collins spent so much time learning his trade out in America that perhaps that hurt his reputation over here, but it certainly didn't hurt his skills as a fighter. He admits himself in this feature that he felt that he was past his peak already at that point.
Which is interesting, very interesting, because people obviously don't give him the credit because they say, oh, Eubank and Benn were past it, and he's actually come out and said to Don McRae that actually I was on the downward slide.
Yeah, and he fought McCullum, Reggie Johnson, Callum Bay as well, and didn't disgrace himself, but close fights really in the end. And
he doesn't get enough credit for what he did in the stateside.
No, definitely not. And that was a really, really good era for middleweights.
Yeah. Also coming this week, we've got a long feature from Gabe Montoya, who's been breaking all the stories in America, all these drug stories about Andre Berto, Lamont Peterson, and now Antonio Tarver. What do you make about the current situation with drugs in boxing?
It's depressing, isn't it? I don't really know what else to say. It's really depressing. I was out on holiday last week and I couldn't really get on the internet. I was relying on, when I was in restaurants and what have you, and every time I managed to log on, it was like somebody else has been tested positive, somebody else has tested positive. Is it the tip of the iceberg? I don't know. There's so many grey areas. Ultimately, the more people are getting caught in the long term, you should say it's for the good of the sport. More people are getting caught today, it's for the good of tomorrow. At the same time, it's still quite depressing.
Do you think it's a watershed era, like athletics has had, like cycling has had? Do you think it could be something where we're in that deep, where there's going to have to be a complete overhaul in systems and who's tested and who does the testing and so forth? Definitely.
The problem is all the organisations. Again, there's two main bodies now that are doing the drug testing. There's also all the different states, and everybody's got their own rules and regulations.
Different promoters using
exactly. That's what.
Signing up for different.
Exactly. So until there's somebody overseeing it all, it's never going to be a problem solved. It's always going to be an underlying problem. And the thing is, as well, with this kind of thing is, now certain drugs are being picked up and there's different ways of testing it. People producing these products will be looking ahead going, right, okay, we can beat this system by creating this product, And in sport as a whole it's a concern. In boxing it's a real concern. And you think back, well, what if this was going on? And you start to look back in time and think, well, what if you had these kind of tests in place 10 years ago? Who would have been caught then? And it's a grey area. It's a grey area, murky.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that also seems to be somewhat strange is the punishments at the moment. And like you said, it's down to the various organisations, state committees, and different things, which again is there's a whole host of grey areas involved, which is really depressing because Tarver has been suspended, I believe, indefinitely, but he's been fined $2,500 of a $1 million purse. But Big Larry, who granted has now come clean, and Big Larry Olubamiwo, who's come clean and admitted to using over the last 6 years, gets a 4-year ban. So there's no real regulation in place as to who gets what ban for what substances and so forth, is there? I mean, what would you like to see done? Would you like to see all drug cheats thrown out of the sport?
Well, he got to that point in other sports where people were getting lifetime bans. Certainly $2,500 fine out of $1 million purse is laughable.
It's no deterrent, is it?
It's absolutely, that's a disgraceful punishment, and if that's the only punishment that he gets, if he is found to be guilty and what have you, then that's disgraceful. Like you say, no deterrent whatsoever. Perhaps we do need to do this, perhaps it does need to be a lifetime ban, whoever they are. They don't deserve to earn money from boxing. It's a wonderful sport. We don't need them in there.
Promoter Mickey Elliott tweeted me this morning actually, saying that, you know, well, maybe if Tarver loses his, if he loses his analyst job with Showtime, maybe that's another punishment. And it is, but it's not Showtime's responsibility to deal with people who've tested positive, is it?
Yeah, definitely. It is, but I'd be surprised if Tarver is used by Showtime in the near future. I know they didn't use him at the weekend. I'd be surprised if it just wouldn't look good, would it?